Welcome back to This Explainer. Today we're diving into something that honestly completely turned everything I thought I knew about money upside down. We're looking at Bill Perkins' radical concept from his book, Die with Zero. Now, Perkins is a highly successful hedge fund manager, but get this, he's not here to tell you how to penny pinch. Instead, he's proposing a total paradigm shift. He wants us to optimize our lives for maximum experiences rather than just maximizing wealth accumulation. Okay, let's get right into it.
So, think about this for a second. Is dying with $1 million actually a failure? I know, it sounds totally crazy, right? For decades, we've all been handed the exact same script. You work hard, you save aggressively, and you build up this massive nest egg. The ultimate American dream is essentially to have an overflowing bank account when you pass away. But Perkins argues that if you die with money left over, you haven't actually succeeded. You've failed. Why? Because you've needlessly traded irreplaceable hours of your life energy for money you never even ended up using.
Section 1. The Retirement Trap, Rethinking the Finish Line. To really understand why we need to rethink this, we have to recognize that we've kind of been blindly saving for a life we might never actually get to live. Traditionally, the script goes like this. You delay gratification, grind it out for 40 years, retire at 65, and then finally, you're supposed to enjoy your life. But data from the Federal Reserve shows something staggering. Many retirees actually save way more than they'll ever use, and a huge chunk of them look back and wish they'd prioritized experiences earlier. The Die with Zero script flips this entirely on its head. Perkins says we should experience life early, let our wealth peak somewhere around age 45 to 60, and then actively spend it down. You see, the goal here is optimizing for the highest utility of your money, rather than just treating a bank account balance like some video game high score.
The emotional core of this whole philosophy basically boils down to one quote: "The goal is not to die rich, it's to die with zero regrets." The source material shares a really heartbreaking story about a guy named John. He was a 35-year-old lawyer, completely healthy, working incredibly hard and saving every penny for a future where he'd finally travel and enjoy time with his wife and 3 young kids. Then, completely out of nowhere, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. In his final months, John realized the absolute tragedy of his deferred life plan. He had been saving for a tomorrow that was literally never going to come. He and his wife spent those last 3 months just being together, going to the park, walking around. He didn't regret stopping work. His only regret was that he didn't start living that way sooner.
Section 2. Investing in Memory Dividends, the Compound Interest of Experiences.
That heavy realization from John's story segues perfectly into understanding how experiences actually pay us back. Look, we all understand financial compound interest, right? But Perkins introduces a totally fascinating new concept called memory dividends. Basically, these are the ongoing emotional returns and the joy you get throughout the rest of your life from a past experience. There's this great story about Perkins' old roommate, Jason. Back in their 20s, they were practically broke, but Jason decided to borrow money, literally going into debt just to backpack across Europe for 3 months. At the time, Perkins thought Jason was out of his mind. But Jason went, slept in incredibly cheap hostels, met amazing people, and basically had the adventure of a lifetime.
The mathematical genius here comes down to a specific time frame, 50 years. Because Jason took that trip in his 20s, he gets to enjoy the memories, tell the crazy stories, and feel the joy of that experience for 50 whole years. That is a massive memory dividend. Think about it. If you wait until you're 70 to take that exact same trip, you're paying the exact same financial cost, but you're only getting a 10 or 15-year memory dividend. Plus, let's be real, you can't exactly sleep in bunk beds with 24-year-olds when you're 70. Investing in experiences early is mathematically and emotionally just vastly superior.
Section 3. Time, Wealth, and Health, the Ultimate Life Trifecta Constraint. So why do we wait? Well, if we map out our lives across these 3 key resources, time, wealth, and health, a pretty tragic irony starts to appear. In our 20s and 30s, we have high time and high health, but our wealth is super low. So we trade our time to go make money. Then we hit our 40s and 50s. Wealth is increasing, our health is still pretty solid, but our time drops to critically low levels because of demanding careers and raising kids. Finally, we reach our 60s and beyond. We suddenly have high time again and high wealth from a lifetime of saving, but our health is low. We sacrifice our youthful health for money, only to find we have no health left to actually spend the money on when we finally get it.
To bring this reality to life, there's a story called the Soggy Dollar Bar Reality Check. The Soggy Dollar is this famous bar down in the Virgin Islands where you literally have to anchor your boat and swim about 30 yards to get to the shore. Well, a 69-year-old man named Chris, who had been a lifelong swimmer, confidently dove right in. But just 20 yards in, his body gave out. He started gasping for air, totally panicked, and actually had to be dragged to the shore, taking like 15 minutes just to catch his breath. The lesson here? Our bodies age past our mental self-image. Experiences expire. A 30-year-old hiking the Himalayas is having a fundamentally different experience than a 60-year-old trying to hike that exact same mountain.
Section 4. Time bucketing your life, proactive experience planning. So how do we solve this constraint? Well, Perkins breaks life down into 3 distinct physical phases: the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. Honestly, this completely flipped my perspective on the traditional bucket list, which, when you think about it, is fundamentally flawed because it totally ignores time. You might jot down climb Mount Everest right next to go on an Alaskan cruise. But climbing Everest firmly belongs in your go-go years. An Alaskan cruise, that fits perfectly into your slow-go or even your no-go years. To actively design your life, you need to follow 3 simple steps. First, draw a timeline from your current age to your estimated death. Second, divide that timeline up into 5 or 10-year buckets, your 30s, your 40s, and so on. Finally, assign your specific dream experiences to their optimal age window. By doing this, you aren't just letting life casually drift by on autopilot. You're actively designing your decades so you don't find yourself sitting on the edge of your bed at 75, regretting that your window to do something amazing has slammed firmly shut.
Section 5. Give while you live. Rethinking the deathbed inheritance.
Now let's tackle a really common objection here, but I'm saving this money for my kids. Well, statistically speaking, the financial utility of money drops dramatically as your kids get older. If you wait until you die to pass on your wealth, they'll likely be in their late 50s or 60s when they finally receive it. By then, they're usually already established, meaning the actual utility or life-changing power of that money is surprisingly low. But giving that same inheritance when they're, say, 25 to 35, the utility is massive. They can buy a house, start a business, or afford to have kids without crippling financial stress. If you want to help your kids, or even a charity for that matter, don't let death decide the timing. Give while you live, right when it actually makes a profound impact.
A story that perfectly highlights this is the $10,000 sweater. Early in his career, Bill Perkins gave his grandmother $10,000. He figured she'd go on some grand trip or buy something truly amazing. But she didn't do anything with it. Why? Because she was just too old to have the energy or the desire for those things anymore. When he finally asked what she actually wanted, she just said, a warm sweater. That money would have completely changed her life 30 years earlier, but giving it to her at the very end of her life meant the cash had essentially lost all of its utility.
Section 6. Aim to die with 0. Optimizing your life energy. This brings us to the real climax of this entire philosophy. If you've optimized perfectly, your wealth has been fully converted into life experiences and giving while living, leaving 0% wasted life energy. Remember, money is just a middleman. You trade your finite time and stress at work for cash. So if you die with millions sitting in the bank, it literally means you spent years of your life working in an office for nothing. You threw away your life energy, you didn't buy experiences, and you didn't give it away when it actually mattered.
Now, I know exactly what you're thinking. What if I run out of money? It's a genuinely terrifying thought, but Perkins suggests mitigating that fear in a few proactive ways. First, calculate your enough number. That's the exact amount you need to survive comfortably. Everything above that, that's your experience fund. Second, he recommends tools like annuities, where you hand a lump sum over to an insurance company in exchange for guaranteed monthly payouts until the day you die. Now, actually, it's worth noting that some financial analysts, like Take Him from our sources, point out that annuities require giving up your principal, which definitely stresses some people out. But the broader point is that tools absolutely exist, like annuities, long-term care insurance, and government health care, to protect your downside without forcing you to hoard needlessly just out of blind fear.
Ultimately, the core takeaway is this: net fulfillment must be greater than net worth. Life is not a balance sheet. The goal isn't to be the richest person in the cemetery. When you finally reach the end of your days, you aren't going to be replaying Excel spreadsheets in your head. You're going to be replaying memories. You want a life rich with experiences and 0 regrets. So I want to leave you with a final provocative question. What is one experience you are postponing right now? Is it a trip? A tough conversation? Finally starting that business? Stop waiting for a someday that might never come. Your life is happening right now, and time is literally the one resource you can never ever earn back. Take a hard look at your timeline and start converting your money into memories today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.